Welcome back to Booster Therapy. I'm Brett. It's nice to see you all again. And today we're going to break down another Commander deck tech in today's episode of Commanding Presence. But first, I wanted to just go over something that's been requested time and time again, and that is my Commander deck collection. I know you've all seen it in the background on occasion. There's been some other posts on it, so I thought we would just do a quick review of how I store my collection and where we're at and how we're growing. So today, I mean, right now you're looking at how I store my collection. So exclusively I use Ultra Pro products. Ultra Pro is the best in the business when it comes to storage, sleeving up, just taking care of your cardboard and taking care of your Magic collection. And I use that for all of the different ways that I store it. So right now we're looking at my Commander collection. Currently, I have 137 Commander decks. That's including the one we're going to review today. Usually I spend time tuning them up, and then every once in a while I get a pass to walk through and just break them down again and see what we can add. And you'll notice that I have decals on all of mine. It really is there to help identify the colors of the Commander within that deck box. It doesn't specifically call it the Commander, but it lets you know what you're playing with. And the idea there is, when I have friends over and when we sit down to play Magic, if they're wanting to try something new, they can step back and look over the library I have of different Commander decks and pick something that maybe fits within a playstyle they're not used to or a color combination that they're not used to, and this really guides them on that selection. It also helps me just categorize, identify, and know roughly where the Commanders I have are sitting. Especially now that we're over 100 of these decks, it's hard to keep track of it all. So yeah, I use Ultra Pro. We use the Eclipse sleeves largely on most of my decks as well. Today you'll see the deck we're breaking down is no exception. It's in a Satin Tower where you have that convenience of storing your tokens, storing your 100 card deck all sleeved up, and at the bottom a little dice tray. It is kind of that perfect solution for what I would argue is the best price on the market too. You generally are spending $15 or so for one of these deck boxes, and it kind of does it all for you. So yeah, it's again the way that I prefer to store it. It's the way that you'll see all of these decks back here, and a lot of these you've gotten to see me break down through Commanding Presence. Some of them have been decks that I've built for patrons in Brett's builds, and I'm like, you know what, I wonder what it would be like if I took that concept and pushed it to a budgetless format. I am someone who struggles with a budget. I can build within it, but I love the freedom of just running wild with a collection of cards that I keep opening more, and you keep growing that collection. So I really like to fully tune them as best as I can, and you'll see that in a lot of the videos where I'm breaking down a personal deck of mine and how I've made that work for myself. Today's video is also sponsored by Ultra Pro. So Ultra Pro, again, best in the business when it comes to your storage of Magic cards and really any trading card game. It's top of the line. They make some of the best product you can purchase and keep things safe in. So supporting Ultra Pro supports us as Booster Therapy. So please make sure you're doing right by your cards and getting a Satin Tower for your next Commander deck. Also, make sure you stay to the end of the video. Ultra Pro has hooked us up with some fantastic items to give away. I've got a box next to me full of goodies. We can grab one. I mean, of course, it's going to have some of the Satin Towers in it. We have a handful of Satin Towers to give away, plus more. There's going to be a lot of different ways for you to enter to win this stuff, so please stay to the end of the video. Check it out. There'll be instructions there. But without further ado, let's jump into today's episode of Commanding Presence and breaking down our newest deck from a Commander in Commander Legends. That's right. It's a new Commander. And of course, like I said, an Ultra Pro Satin Tower. And you know what this means. This means this Commander Legends Commander is Gruul, because Gruul is cool. And today, we're breaking down everybody's favorite new boy, Hans Eriksson. Two colorless, a red and a green for a 1/4. Whenever Hans Eriksson attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it onto the battlefield tapped and attacking defending player or a planeswalker they control. Otherwise, put that card into your hand. When you put a creature card onto the battlefield this way, it fights. Hans Eriksson. Nothing could ruin such a fine day. All right, guys, let's break into this one. This has been a ton of fun to build. I am super excited to get a little bit of play out of Hans Eriksson and show you guys how I built this one. It was the one I think I was most excited about after spoiler season ended. Just a lot of fun utility. I love cheating big creatures out on the battlefield, and this guy definitely does that for us. and then some. So the first thing we're going to talk about is ramp, and of course you start off your ramp with a soul ring. Next we got Nature's Lore. Just search for a forest and put it directly into play. Always a great ramp spell. Exploration, playing more than one land a turn, is helpful. Arcane Signet, if you play a soul ring, you're playing the Arcane Signet. The Spring Bloom Druid, this way if we bounce one in from Hans Eriksson, we can get it out of the way rather than drawing it, and get the ETB. Kodama's Reach, just an effective green mana ramp spell. Sakura Tribe Elder, it's similar to the Spring Bloom Druid, it comes into play, it's going to have to fight. We're going to sack it before the fight so we can get the land. Rampant Growth, another 2 mana ramp spell, just efficient, effective ramp. Cultivate, just like Kodama's Reach, just a nice, effective green ramper. Sky Shroud Claim gets us 2 forests into play untapped. And yes, we can get our shock lands, our true duels, anything with the forest keyword. The Nelia Keen-Eyed, or Nylea, however you say it. This one's a little bit different. It's specific to creature ramp. It reduces the cost rather than a pure ramp spell with land. A lot of other utility and card advantage off of this one. Plus 5/6 Indestructible didn't hurt anybody. Alright, next we're going to talk about some of the ways that we are going to protect our Hans. Because Hans needs protection. Otherwise, well, we just get broken. So the first one on here is going to be Inara Wolvid Familiar, another new one from Commander Legends. This one makes your commander indestructible. So as long as it's your turn, commanders you control have indestructible. It works and partners great with Hans. Unfortunately, it can't be a pure partner. Bubble Matrix, 4 mana for this one. All damage dealt to creatures is reduced to 0. So creature on creature fighting or damage does not hurt. Swiftfoot Boots gives it hexproof and haste, so a different kind of protection. This one doesn't specifically prevent it from dying in the fight realm, but it does protect our commander. Lightning Greaves, similar to Swiftfoot Boots, except with Shroud instead of hexproof, but it's also 0 instead of 1. It's a debate that is endless. Both are good. Dark Steel Plate, this is the perfect one to get. If we can get this out there fast and let it stay, Dark Steel Plate makes Hans Eriksson indestructible, so all of the big beasts that we have entering the battlefield will not hurt, will not kill. Rhythm of the Wild, creature spells can't be countered, and then we get Riot, so another haste mechanic, which is really important. Vexine's Shusher, protecting all of our spells. We can make any of our spells uncounterable, can't be countered, and we can do that politically for our friends as well. The Magebane Armor, another way to protect Hans Eriksson, +2/+4, loses flying. Well, he didn't have it to begin with. That would have been weird. But it also prevents all non-combat damage. Fighting is non-combat, keeps him alive through the fight. Vigor, this one prevents all damage creatures deal to our creatures, or any damage dealt to our creatures, and converts it into 1/1 counters. How lovely. And of course, Sword of Feast and Famine, giving him protection from black and from green, so that green fight doesn't hurt so bad, but also has the upside of letting us untap our lands, making our opponents discard cards, and just being beautiful in this Double Masters masterpiece. Next, we're going to talk about some of the big creatures that we're going to swing onto the battlefield. Let's see if we can get there. Right there we go. And these are largely going to be the big boppers. There's a handful of other really powerful creatures that exist in here, but these are some of the ones that pull a little bit of utility and hopefully finish off our opponents. The first one is Thunderfoot Baloth. I love this one. So it's a 5/5 trample lieutenant. So as long as we have Hans out there, it gets +2/+2, and other creatures we have get +2/+2 and have trample. So this gives trample and buffs our board. Kodama of the East Tree, I love this one. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, so Hans's ability isn't entering the battlefield ability, it does trigger Kodama to give us that extra value and put another creature into play. Inferno Titan, a 6/6 that when it ETBs does 3 damage, divided as we choose, and then it does it again and again every time it attacks, and hey, fire breathing for fun. Blightsteel Colossus, this is a big 11/11 trample. Infect Indestructible, this is a tough one. Hans is often going to die to Blightsteel Colossus. The only thing that really saves him is any prevention of damage, because this damage being done gets around indestructible. It's infect damage when it fights, which means it deals into -1/-1 counters, but it is not the end of the world if we have to recast Hans after him dying and getting a Blightsteel Colossus out, which very likely killed one of our opponents. Ilharg, the Raised Boar, a fun creature to get out. Also a 6/6 with Trample for 5, so it's a nice undercosted creature. And it doubles down a bit on our Hans mechanic. Hans does from the top of our library, which is great. Ilharg does it straight from our hand, so if we have an opening hand that has Blightsteel or some of the other big boys in it, Ilharg helps us get it out there a little bit faster. Morog, Fury of Okum, giving us extra combat steps. Extra combat with Hans means we get to spill more big boys on the board, and that's our game plan. We're cracking in and breaking our opponents. Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre, an indestructible Annihilator 4. Hard to deal with. Love to cheat this one in. And again, you're never sad if Hans has to die to an Ulamog. Vorinclick's Voice of Hunger, another monstrous beauty to get into play. We get this one down, we lock out a lot of our land choice for our opponents, and helps us to control the pace of battle, which is how we win. Avenger of Zendikar, a great ETB, and it's a good board, a good go-wide board state. So we don't have a lot of big go-wide except for creatures just getting out there in any combat phase. Avenger helps us to fill the board state, and then we can ramp those up with landfall. Green Warden of Marasa, this one's just a strong ETB and a strong die trigger. Gets us any card back from our graveyard right back into our hand. The Impervious Great Worm, because I needed an excuse to play a 16/16 Indestructible. This is a great way to do it. The Archetype of Endurance, another high utility big boy that Hans can spit out for us, giving us hexproof and robbing our opponents of hexproof, which, you know, that's great. Next, we're going to talk about some of our card advantage with this deck. We have a decent deal of card advantage. There's two on top. They're some of the most important for working with Hans. The first one is Sensei's Divining Top. Being able to stack our deck appropriately is exactly how we get the best amount of value from Hans. So being able to top on our turn, or hopefully at the end of our opponent's turn, stacking the deck to draw the cards that we want in our hand and to leave the ones on top that we want Hans to cheat out, that's the idea with this one. Scroll Rack, it's doing the same thing for us. It's stacking that top of our deck. It's making it so we can plan for what is next and get the most value out of Hans on all of our combat phases. Worldly Tutor, this one's in a pinch. You do it at instant speed, put the perfect Blightsteel Colossus or whatever it is on top of your library, and make it so you can crack in with lethal. Court of Bounty, another new one from Commander Legends. I love the card advantage we get on this one. We become the Monarch right away, so we're going to get that extra draw at the end of turn. We get to play an extra land every turn, and if we're the Monarch, it's not just a land. We can put a creature right onto the battlefield. And we're combat focused, so we are going to possess Monarch quite often. Oracle of Moldiah, this one's just great extra value. Playing cards from the top, really helping us get the lands out of the way so we get the most value out of Hans, and getting to play extra lands every turn is always a plus. Oops. Defense of the Heart, this one's a great one. I play it in almost all green decks at this point, especially after it's price tanked with the reprint mystery boosters. This one's just really effective. It gets us 2 creatures of any choice as long as someone else has 3 creatures, which often happens in Commander. So getting Ulamog and Blightsteel right onto the battlefield because, you know, we can. Rishkar's Expertise, we're going to have a lot of big creatures getting to draw cards equal to that power, like Impervious Great Worm being a 16/16. Drawing 16 cards and playing one for free if its CMC is 5 or less is fantastic. Return of the Wild Speaker. I love the utility on this one. So instant speed, draw equal to the greatest power of whatever non-human we have, which is, you know, honestly always going to be like 5 or more. The other upside here, though, is we can overrun our creatures at instant speed and kill somebody. Guardian Project, again, a lot of creatures entering the battlefield, getting those draw triggers on every ETB rather than the cast when we're trying to cheat things is pretty valuable for us. Soul of the Harvest, it's the same thing. It's an ETB, draw a card for all of our non-token creatures. Also a big boy 6/6 for 6. The Orin Frostfang, love this snow creature. Our attacking creatures get Death Touch, so people don't want to block Hans, even if he's a 1/4. It's like, I'm not going to block it, he'll kill me. He's got Death Touch. Also, we get to draw cards. Eternal Witness, great value, another good one that we don't mind for the ETB. It does die to it when it fights, but it gets us back the card we needed most. And, of course, the Great Henge. This is kind of ramp? Not really. I mean, you're not going to play this fast enough to ramp, but it does tap for 2 and gain 2. Most importantly, creatures enter with a 1/1 counter, and we draw cards off of them, just going that much further with it all. Next, we're going to talk about a few utility and finishing spells, things that really just help us double down or triple down on the damage. Fiery Emancipation is the first one, truly tripling all of the damage we're doing. Again, combat focused, this is how you win the game. Champion of Lamholt, we have a lot of creatures entering the battlefield. This will slowly tick up and get bigger and bigger, hopefully putting us in a place where no one can block us as long as Champion stays alive. Overwhelming Stampede, think of having that Great Worm out there, playing Overwhelming Stampede, giving everything +16/+16 and trample until end of turn, and just winning by swinging 1 creature at each opponent. It's fun. Fervor, haste is important. We have a few ways to do that. We have our equipments that give haste, but those are singular target haste. We have Rhythm of the Wild, which on cast, we get that Riot mechanic, or when it enters, we get the Riot mechanic. Fervor is just a little bit more pure. Everything has haste for us. Goreclaw, Terror of Kelsisma. This does give some ramp, but also getting us that evasion, or really over the top. +1/+1 in trample for all of our creatures with power 4 or greater, just making sure our damage gets in and that we're impactful in all of our moments. Next, we're going to talk about some of our removal, and that will wrap up Hans Eriksson. The first one is Force of Vigor. You need answers for artifacts and enchantments. Force of Vigor is a really pure one. For 4 mana, you get to destroy 2 of them, and you can do this with your mana tapped out if you need to in a pinch. Bane of Progress. It is a fantastic creature to have entering the battlefield. It wipes everything out. It gets all the 1/1 counters. It's amazing. Beast Within destroys any permanent. They simply just get a beast, which is not a problem for us. Vivian Reed, there's so much with this one. We get removal by destroying artifacts, enchantments, or creatures with flying. We get card advantage on the +1, and if we get to alt Vivian Reed, we pretty much win. Creatures get +2/+2, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. It's a perfect answer for Hans' ability. Terror of the Peaks, we have so many ETBs. This lets us target that damage anywhere that we get off of Terror. So if a creature enters, it has its power of 6. We deal 6 to another creature or a player. It just gives us that utility to ping things down if we need to, or just continue the onslaught to our opponents. Warstorm Surge is exactly the same thing, except it's not on a stick, so it's less fragile. But as creatures enter the battlefield, we get to deal damage equal to its power to any target. Neith of the Dire Hunt. So this one's great. At the beginning of combat, we get to pay 2 colorless and a Gruul. And if we do, we can double the power of a creature until end of turn, and then that creature must be blocked. So we can take down other creatures that they may control, but more importantly, we get to double damage, and we can draw cards off of that. We have spells that play off of that. And then whenever 1 or more creatures you control fight, which we do a lot, or become blocked, draw a card. Decimate, destroy an artifact, and a creature, enchantment, and a land. 4 mana to do it all. War's Toll, controlling the wave of battle is great. This is removal in my mind because it removes the ability of people countering us, and if they are going to counter anything we do, they have to be very obvious about it. You're tapping 1 land, everything gets tapped at once. It just controls how things are flowing in that wave of battle, which is exactly how, like I said, we win. And of course, Blood Moon. Blood Moon just removes all of those non-basic lands, those terrible greedy mana bases. You know, those evil people that want to play Brea and have 4 different colors in their deck and try to do impossible things that shouldn't exist in Magic. This stops that. And if that didn't stop it, do Impending Disaster. After a little while, we don't need lands anymore. Hans gets us all we need. So if you don't need lands, destroy them, get them off the battlefield. Make sure you're controlling what's happening next so your friends love you even more and respect you for being the champion you are. That is Hans Eriksson. We'll do a quick run through the lands, just kind of a somewhat standard land package, but the truth of the matter is you really could just play all basics here. There's not much that you're getting extra utility on in the land, so you can do what you feel fit. If you want to look at the specific deck list, or if you want to purchase this deck, we include the link for the entire deck in every description of the videos that we have in Commanding Presence, so please check those links below. Feel free to click on one of those and view the deck and purchase it. It really does help us out. And you've stayed to the end. You've made it. So here's what's next. If you've made it to the end, Ultra Pro again is sponsoring this video, and they have something fantastic, and I'm about to talk about it right now. All right, you made it to the end of the video, and it's time for the Ultra Pro giveaway. We've got 5 bundles to give away. Each bundle includes a Satin Pro Tower, a set of 110 sleeves. That's right, there's 2 of them, and an Ultra Pro playmat. There are 5 winners. Super easy ways to enter. The first one is simply be a subscriber, leave a comment in this video, and we will be choosing 3 of the comments from this video to win these ultimate gift bundles. The other way is to head out to our Instagram, booster.therapy, follow us on Instagram, leave a comment on a picture that is posted for this video, and one of those comments will be drawn to win. And the final one is to head out to our Twitter, which is @boostertherapy, and do the same thing. Just leave a comment on the post, retweet it for the tweet that is this Commanding Presence video. 5 of you will win. We look forward to giving these away. And as always, thanks for the love, thanks for the support, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.